Hi there, folks. So I want to do a little video talking about freelancing in RPGs. So straight off the bat, I am not a professional TTRPG designer. I have dabbled. I would like to dabble more. But I thought it might be helpful because quite often when I hear great advice from people who are talking about getting into TTRPG design, they were people who they grafted and worked really hard to get to where they are in the TTRPG industry, but they also had a really solid foundation in their lives, as far as I can tell. And a lot of people will say that they actually just had a lot of advantages in it. And I think there's probably a lot of people out there like me where there isn't. I don't have a massive day job. I work for a company, and that's it's fine. It's good work. It's enjoyable enough, but I want to be writing. I want to be designing, and I want to be just creating stuff for TTRPGs. So I thought it would be fun to go through like just my personal journey in this kind of stuff, and then see what happens. So very quick background: I've always written stuff. I've always been a writer, and I went to college to study creative writing and then professional writing, where I met the other DSM folks. And coming out of that, they really drilled home the sort of leaving this course, you need to either go to uni or you need to go into freelancing. And I would always have said freelance is not for me. Like being in charge of your own like schedules and planning and finances and taxes and all that stuff, just way too much work. But they kind of sort of opened my eyes a little bit on that course to the pros and cons of it and the kind of things you need to watch out for. And I thought, well, I better try to do something. So I started on Fiverr, offering like, I'll write poetry, or I'll write a little story for you, or I'll help you publish your book, which I've done for loads of people. Self-publishing through Amazon, which you can learn yourself, but a lot of people don't want to, so I can help assist with that. And then I thought, for funsies, let's put up, I will write something for your TTRPG. And I think a year later, I had 2 gigs helping me with their books, and every other gig I had was to do with TTRPGs. So that was my main sort of kick into it. So I still do that on Fiverr. I write adventures for people mostly. I have written a bit for different systems. I've written a bit for extracurricular things. So I worked on, I'm gonna get the name wrong now, Avalon, the MMORPG, maybe. But that was someone who just saw that I could write dialogue, so they asked me to write dialogue for some of the NPCs in the game. That was really cool. That felt like a big job, because it was, here's someone from LA who's going to you're going to arrange a call with them, and then you're going to out talk it through. The director of the game, he talked me through some part of the system, so the game. So he loaded up the beta or whatever it was, and then he took, okay, here's a character. This character doesn't say anything. You're going to get him to say this, 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 and this. And then you can write the text, but like, here's the kind of responses we need. Here's the avenues we need to go from there. So that was really cool. Did I become an overnight sensation? No. But it was cool. I worked with some other folks who were driving into their first Kickstarter, and I got really caught up in that, and there was like NDAs, and they were really confident in their system. But notably, I think this is one of the key parts to come back to, I wasn't. I was involved, I helped them a lot, and it actually went beyond just a couple of gigs. Like, I got quite involved with the project in the Kickstarter, and I learned a good lot, but I never really believed in that game, which I think is a sign. I was too interested in trying to be a success and be part of something than to actually focus on something that I really, really believed in. I got a few other notable gigs. So throughout all this time, I'm still doing like quick adventures for people, from things that are like literally like, this is an encounter, straight up to here's 9 chapters, levels 1 to 10 in 5e of an adventure for a bespoke world, or campaign overviews that just cover so the outline of a campaign, maybe like 1 to 15, and then the person who's contracting me is going to then go in and they're going to write it out bit by bit, from my outline. I got a few bigger things outside of that sort of Fiverr ecosystem. And these were all, again, luck mostly. Well, right place, right time. So the two that spring to mind, three actually. So one started through Fiverr, and it's a great group. I'll put everyone's name because I'm terrible at remembering names in the doobly doo. But this is terrible. There was a system. It was 5e adjacent, so the base was 5e, and then there was like overlays of rules. I can't believe I can't get the system to come to my mind. It'll come back to me later. But the great director behind that, they'd done a few Kickstarters, and they were just looking for someone who could help write a few bits and pieces. I was a very small fish compared to them, but they were really content to just do small, successful Kickstarters to produce new books and kind of service their community, which was really cool and really cool to see. And I imagine they don't realize how much of an influence they were on me. They're great folks, even though I can't remember their name. The other two breaks I had, one was kind of connected to something I'd done, and one was just pure luck. So the pure luck one was Dream Realm Storytellers were advertised on Facebook for editors. So I edited a couple of chapters of their Silver Plate book for 5e. So they'd already kickstarted, already been really successful. They're a huge team, a great team. So they've done a bunch of different books. I'm not even going to try to remember the other ones. I'm sure they've got one called Codex Draconis on just now. And I want to say they're based in Turkey, which is really cool. And that let me get an insight into the industry from a different angle. So I've done a lot of editing on books, but I hadn't done a whole lot of editing on 5e. But I knew the 5e system really, really, really well. It's like plastered in my brain at this point. So that was really good fun, and really informative, and I mean financially helpful as well. Nothing better than getting paid to do what you love doing. And the last one was, I think at a certain point you realise that you kind of want to start building a back catalogue which you can rely on for royalties. So that's what I started doing. I put together the Blood Knight, which is a fighter martial archetype. I put together the Way of the Fanatic, which is a monk subclass. The Circle... No, I guess correct. The Circle Mage, which was a wizard subclass. And the... Macabre Surgeon Artificer. Blood Knight was about... basically it was supernatural creatures who become Blood Knights. So if you're like a vampire, a fae, or a werewolf, that's your kind of origin, and then you spend like, I think it was blood points basically to do feats of power, like a bit like a Cyanite or a Battlemaster. And Macabre Surgeon, it was similar to I guess it was like the Healer Artificer kind of, but they basically create their own golem or their own like Frankenstein type companion. The Way of Fanatic focused around like sacrificing some of that great defense you get as a monk for extra damage, or like almost like reckless attack. And then the Circle Mage was all about like connecting with other spellcasters in your group. You could share like spell slots. You could amplify your spells by connecting with them. It was really cool. But like any product you'll ever make, this is only my experience, but I'm pretty sure it's more widespread than that. You need marketing. You need to be pushing these things, otherwise you're not gonna sell a lot of them. And something I wouldn't do now, but made sense to me at the time because it worked for me with Fiverr. Being cheap on Fiverr benefited me. And over the years, I've kind of worked up to like I get paid what I'm worth. But I initially started off being dead cheap, which made people kind of talk to me. We work out custom gigs, and usually I end up getting paid fairly anyway. But people were more likely to click on someone who's got a cheap price to start with, so that's what I ended up doing. So I put pay what you want, kind of relying on people's goodwill on DM's Guild. But realistically, you can pay what you're worth. So if you think what you've done, so I think those could probably have gone subclasses $10. I could have managed that. I would have sold fewer of them, but I would have got paid for more of them, and that would have been the start of that back catalogue. So that's what I did for a while. But through that, there's a great company called Splinterverse Media, and Jimmy Flowers, their sort of lead, does this great thing where he goes through DM's Guild each week and he lifts the new stuff and talks about it. Doesn't matter if it's from huge contributors or huge figures in the business or from brand new people. He talks a little bit, gives you a little segment, couple minutes, talking about your product, reading through your free sample. I also used to put the whole free sample, it was the whole document. So I appreciate a few shouts out from him. And then one time when he was doing a call for books, because he used to also publish, the Splinterverse books did like the Dragonlance Companion. So I got a call for that. Or I got offered to submit some pitches for that. So I went with the Circle of the Elemental Warrior Druid. And I had a couple of cool item pitches. So I didn't know a lot about Dragonlance, but I'd done my research. So I loved the idea behind the knights and also the Soth connection. So I went with this sort of magic sword. It's kind of like what they called Vestige of Divergence. When they started doing the sort of leveled items, which is what they do in Draw Steel as well, and where this improves throughout the campaign. So I had like a legendary sword, and then I developed, or didn't develop, I researched, and Dragonlance has, I think it's this tribe that do like frost or ice axes, and that was like a magic item I put in as well. And then that's when I got probably my coolest. I think Emma as an editor, if you go and grab the Silverplate campaign guide, but Dragonlance Companion, Splinterverse Media. If I open it up, my name's not only in the inside cover, my name's also on the page where my subclass is. So that's just really cool. Like, it's just a cool thing to have. So there we go. I'll try this one-handed, but anyway. So Circle of the Elemental Warrior, name right in there. That was a really cool moment. Again, didn't make me famous, didn't make me, jobs left, right, and center, but it was really, really cool, and it felt like an opportunity that came around because of my hard work. So because I'd spent so much time working on content and making things for Fiverr for clients, I made sure like I'm really well reviewed on Fiverr, and you kind of have to be. I had done also work for various people, but also had a good pitch in the moment. So they didn't just say, "Oh yeah, you can submit stuff." It was, well, pitch us on stuff. So pitch the class, pitch the items, and then work with their great editor to kind of realize those items. And that gave me a taste of working for people setting rates rather than me just telling people what I charge. And things like word count, and then how that works with editing. So some companies don't pay you for your like rewrites. Some companies do, and that was an interesting learning moment as well, seeing just kind of how the industry works. But I mean, that was a couple of years ago now, and that's probably the last big one I worked on. Or I think I worked with DRS after that. So Silverplate was last year, the year before. And I still do gigs on Fiverr, still do favorite work through that. I obviously design stuff for my home games. I design stuff for DSM, and we hope to see more of that coming. At the moment, I'm designing some stuff for Draw Steel, and yeah, that's kind of the journey I've gone through creating for TTRPGs. Now, let's say I'm ambitious. Was it Brutus is an ambitious man? But let's say, so what would I like to be doing? Well, I'd like to be doing that full time. I'd like to be writing TTRPG stuff as a business. DSM took a brief sort of dip into Zen or RPG last year. We kind of started it, got really stuck into it, and then kind of, as happens, fell away from it. And then we saw Candela Obscura, which is it's a fun RPG, and then we're like, that has so many things we were going to do, let's just play that. It always happens. No matter what you come up with, whatever kind of creator you are, the minute you start thinking about something and don't put enough effort into it, you see someone else does it. Which doesn't mean you can't do it. Slayers will return. But yeah, so I guess, yeah, so talking about my journey in this and what I would say to people who are trying to get into this kind of thing is actually probably the same advice someone who's experienced. So Taylor Sabadia Alpha Stream gives a lot of advice. James Intricast gives advice from time to time. and like it's the same advice you get from people who want to be authors. The only way to be a writer is to write, and the only way to be a designer is to design. People will ask you, "What have you made? What have you done?" And you need to be able to say, "This is it," and show them what you've done. Talk about what you've done, and you won't think you're learning. You won't think you're picking up new things, but you will be. You just don't realize it. And trying. There's very few things in life you can't get a good way towards without trying. I think aim high. Like, hey, you want to work for Wizards of the Coast? Plan to work for Wizards of the Coast. But you need to start by doing something. You may get lucky and be an overnight success. You may not be. I tend to think these things happen in their own time. If I'm ever a full-time TTRPG designer, I can work hard. There's not really anything I do to force that. But yeah, that's my perspective. That's been my journey in TTRPGs. If you've had your own, I'd love to hear about it. I see I'm quite active in a few different discords, and I see people all the time talking about their homebrew, talk about the stuff they designed. I'm on the MCM Reddit at times, and there are people on there talk about stuff they've crafted. We all like meeting homebrew, and anyone who's a director or DM or a warden, you're designers anyway because you've made stuff. Whether it was on the fly and little things, you've started that designer journey. So if something you want to do it. There's never been a time with more opportunity out there. But also it's like the best time may have been some other time, but the second best time's now. So if it's something you're thinking about doing, you've wanted to do, give it a go. Every single designer you've ever seen started out making stuff they would be embarrassed to show off now. And some of them are chilling, talk about it, some pretend it never happened. But yeah, as someone who's not a success, well, someone who's had successes but is not where they want to be, my perspective would be you just got to keep trying, working at it, and see how it goes. Anyway, cheers, folks.